Minecraft PvP community is a competitive and thrilling place to play multiple different game modes of PvP, all to help master your Minecraft skills. These communities have grown into tightly knit networks of servers, including the hub of the community, the tier list, aka MCTiers. This is where you can be accurately tested for your PvP skills, and is where all the top players compete. However, beneath all this is a system that nobody talks about, the blacklist system. The blacklist is the tier list's network-wide permanent ban system, originally designed to protect the community by removing dangerous and unacceptable players. But in its current form, it's outdated, excessively harsh, and fundamentally flawed in many ways. A system that punishes people who've committed often temporary infractions with permanent consequences, often without fair process, context, or a chance at redemption. Today, I'll break down why the blacklist is so broken through my own personal experience and those of others. I'll explain how the blacklist has fostered bias and laziness across PvP communities, and I'll propose constructive ideas on how the punishment system can be revamped to make punishments safer, fairer, and focused on redemption rather than exile. Before I begin, I'd like to state that I do not condone doxing, DDoSing, doxbins, or other harmful behavior. These actions are never okay, and nothing in this video is meant to excuse or justify them. Now let's begin. Part 1. The past and present. The tier list has one non-negotiable standard that was made ever since it was first created around 2018, that doxers, DDoSers, and other members that cause real-world harm have no place in the community. Ever since the early days of Minecraft, users like these have scoured competitive Minecraft communities from as far back as major PvP servers first began. From doxing and DDoSing players for killing them in factions, pizza bombing people, and even swatting have all occurred at a concerningly large scale in the early Minecraft competitive scene. Some of the largest and strongest DDoS attacks in history have happened against these kinds of Minecraft servers. So when the 1.9 PvP community was first beginning to rise into popularity, people did not want to raise a community with this level of toxicity and danger attributed to it. Despite that, the blacklist was slow to take place, as Marlo herself stated that it took a lot of convincing to create the blacklist, after this toxic online behavior was seeping into the community. Over time, as the community got cleared of bad players through this rigid punishment system, 1.9 PvP gained popularity over time. People accepted the system and its rules, and the PvP community grew into a mostly healthy space. In the present day, we have a very polished tier list, with a positive community and hundreds of thousands of members in the tier list Discord servers. However, where the tier list evolved, the blacklist system did not. Today, the blacklist is a flawed punishment system that enforces permanent punishments for often temporary infractions. The blacklist creates stigma towards users, as well as generalizing them to one stereotype and disposing context in pretty much all cases of the latter. Even the littlest infractions that can cause a blacklist causes users to be permanently banished from the tier list and communities connected, when in context, the punishment logically does not match the offense committed. For example, a person can send a photo of another person to their friend without permission, and this is enough to be considered doxing, permanently blacklisting them from the Minecraft community. Even if you simply threaten to dox somebody, even out of pure impulse when a person doesn't even know the other person, the standard punishment is a permanent blacklist, despite other offenses like a death threat only getting you muted, despite the implications being much more severe. Simply put, these punishments do not account for the context of situations, making any and all forms of doxing, dox threats, and other similar things a permanently blacklistable offense, regardless of the context, and whether an offense is big or small. This is the first major flaw of the blacklist system. Part 2. Bias, stigma, and the burial of justice. Another problem with the blacklist system is that it generates a lot of stigma towards blacklisted users. Once someone is blacklisted, especially for something like doxing, they aren't seen as someone who's made a mistake. They're often permanently branded as a malicious person, and somewhat subhuman in the eyes of the community, but especially in the eyes of staff members trying to moderate positive Minecraft servers. This type of stigma causes most people to create the connection that if they're a doxer, it means they're dangerous, meaning don't unban them. Although this is deserved for some users and is one of the main purposes of the blacklist, it is a double-edged sword that causes rehabilitated people worthy of a second chance to be seen as unworthy or a threat, which makes it much more difficult for these people to receive empathy and have their case treated fairly by staff. Because the blacklist often disposes context, Other PvP communities and servers who have adopted the punishment system often do the same thing and see blacklisted users as much less worthy of a second chance no matter what they've done, often just closing their ban appeal ticket because they're blacklisted, even when they are no longer a malicious person. All of this stigma, as well as the permanent punishment system, heavily promotes either making alternate accounts to dodge bans as well as the criticism surrounding them, or outright makes people quit Minecraft PvP entirely. This is an unhealthy cycle because if a user makes a new account, they can start from scratch, but if they're in the same state of mind without giving themselves time for learning or fixing their mistakes like normal punishment systems do, it can cause these users to make the same mistakes again, or worse, purposefully cause harm to the community again. These issues stem from the fact that most blacklisted individuals are treated identically due to the same punishment rhetoric used for every person's case once they are caught doing something constituting a blacklist. If some punishments were temporary and had different ban times the stronger or weaker the offense was, then the stigma around blacklisted people would be reduced, allowing people who did smaller offenses to be clearly separate from people who did major offenses, allowing for more empathy towards users based on what they did and less stigma, instead of labeling everyone as unredeemable people. This would also promote waiting out bans instead of just evading them with alt accounts, because users feel they have another chance to make things right, which promotes growth, keeps people in line, and is the true purpose of a blacklist system, to rehabilitate and reform a person who thinks they can break the rules. Another major issue is the appealing process. If you thought that you could just appeal your blacklist and get unbanned, it is unfortunately not that easy. In the past, appealing blacklists was never straightforward either. In terms of appealing a blacklist in general, it usually comes down to whether staff consider you worthy enough to be unblacklisted. The appealing process doesn't focus on justice, rather whether you deserve to be let back into the community. Although the community is completely public, in these cases, staff treat the community as a privilege to be in rather than a right that everyone has. Paired with the stigma that most staff have that being blacklisted equals being dangerous, even when the context applied, it makes things very difficult very quickly. Most of the time, players won't have much to work with. All the staff really know is that you got blacklisted, that there's been time between you being blacklisted and now, and they will have to make the call on whether they think you should be unblacklisted. Because most of the time, a simple sorry doesn't cut it. Staff also have to face the fear of possibly being seen as soft on doxers, which pressures staff towards keeping bans in place. In most cases with this mindset, lots of people do not get unblacklisted, even when they deserve a second chance or very clearly aren't a danger or threat to the community anymore. Because the thought that once a doxer, always a doxer is prevalent as well, it causes consistent bias in appeals, which almost always causes real, fair justice to never truly happen. I'm talking about all this in the context that you are able to appeal your blacklist, but appealing blacklists have been severely neglected by the tierlist staff for some time now. A community blacklist hub Discord server has been made for reporting and appealing blacklists. However, currently, blacklist appeals are closed and have been closed for over 6 months now, showing how appealing blacklists and giving second chances is not on the tier list's minds at all. However, this is just talking about blacklists on Marlo's tier list. Learn's tier list, after the separation of the two tier lists, decided to create their own blacklist appeal system for their own tier list, and it's open and functional, showing that Learn's list at least takes blacklist appeals more seriously. The blacklist system also makes punishment very difficult to reverse, because you can be banned easily across multiple servers, either from word of mouth or from reporting. However, when you deserve to be unbanned, you have to appeal in each and every server. Users will have to appeal, arguing with each staff team to try and convince them. Some servers may reject your appeal simply from the bias and condemnation that I've talked about regarding doxing, DDoSing, etc. Even if you are unblacklisted off the tier list, each server still runs off their own rules, meaning that they can still decide whether you stay punished on their server. Not to mention, when a server is dealing with a user with a permanent ban or blacklist, if they deny your ban, then most of the times they'll ban you from the Discord server that you're appealing in, meaning that even in the future, if you wish to appeal, you won't even have the opportunity to without making a Discord alt account, which in turn makes you look even more guilty. Then everyone will look at you like you have a dunce cap on your head. Individual servers are pressured societally and ethically to ban blacklisted people, but not pressured to unban them once these people are deserving of a second chance. There isn't even a notification or a public way to check if someone is unblacklisted or blacklisted in the first place. The tier list in the past used to have a blacklist user section before they made their own website, but this feature was never moved on to their website that they use now. This also means that blacklisted and potentially dangerous individuals could be in your server, and you wouldn't be able to know if they are blacklisted, unless you made a ticket in the tierlist Discord servers asking them to check their private databases. In 2025, the main MCTiers tier list was split into two separate tier lists, the Marlow and Learn tier list, due to the owners having contradicting views on ways that the tier list should be managed for the future. This, however, doesn't excuse the fact that blacklist appeals have been closed both before and after the tier list separation, and still remain closed for Marlow's tier list to this day. The fact that the biggest tier lists in Minecraft have neglected the blacklist appealing system to the point of not opening blacklist appeals for months shows how the blacklist system has turned into a place of condemnation, basically throwing punished players away and forgetting about them. However, if you are popular and you have a strong community relevance, or if you have connections with the tier list admins, you can appeal blacklists by directly talking to the admins, which shows they do care and appeal blacklists towards players they care about, by talking to the admins directly, sometimes skipping the process of a proper appeal system. This can give the people more favor of being unblacklisted, but some people might do this just because of how unlikely it is to be unblacklisted using conventional appeal methods. Considering the fact that the MCTiers tier lists have hundreds of thousands of members combined, this treatment of the current state of the system and the unwillingness to both care about and address these issues of bias and neglect is extremely unprofessional, lazy, and negligent of MCTiers, especially Marlow's tier list. You may think though that anyone with this capability to give dox threats, dox people, or do worse deserve this sort of treatment. But this is wrong, as there are plenty of scenarios where teenagers will simply go through phases of this dangerous behavior and are a much different person than they were a year ago. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. What happens when a rebellious adolescent in a competitive gaming environment who may be angry, confused, or simply have poor impulse control ends up doing something or saying something that gets himself blacklisted, like for example dox threatening? Although this is not okay to do, and the kid may or may not have intent to dox someone, similarly to how some teenagers online say derogatory language and slurs, it's not to do with actual hatred or racism, but to have shock value in what they're saying, because a teenager who is still developing, growing up in an online community, and possibly being exposed to negative content or groups of people who could cause them to develop harmful habits, such as saying slurs, threatening people, or even doxing people, in order to more effectively express anger, rage, or revenge. Because as a teenager, you aren't old enough to effectively manage your emotions correctly or properly understand the weight of your actions. Adolescent people may even dox people by sharing faces to others because they have personal justifications that doing that just isn't that bad in their own minds. Although saying or doing these things will cause trouble if they're caught, these kinds of people don't have the risk assessment or impulse control to stop themselves or care enough, and most angsty people will make choices that'll get them in trouble at least once when they're growing up. They'll be punished, but over time they'll grow up and they'll mature into being more controlled and intelligent people, and they'll grow out of doing these behaviors because it's just stupid. And for most people, doing that kind of stuff is just a phase in their life that they'll overcome. But in the case of the Minecraft blacklist, no matter how much he matures, he won't ever get unbanned. His account will be frozen in time from that one incident that he did as a teenager, or from that one mistake he did, whatever it was. He'll have to appeal it if he even has the possibility to, and he will have to deal with all the stigma, double standards, and condemnation that a blacklisted individual has to deal with. And even with a clean record, with no history of doxing for months or years of time, they may still keep you banned, just because it's easier to keep a doxer banned than to let them back into the community, because of the same biased mindset that has plagued the community for years. It's a reality that a lot of people, including myself, have faced in recent times regarding this system. Although this is just one example of a more lenient story, it's an example that more clearly defines how the average blacklisted player is treated, despite what they really did not being as serious as how they were treated. Part 3. Storytime. Now, I would like to talk about my personal experiences and the experiences of other people that I know regarding blacklists and how other communities who have adopted the system of punishment has caused bias and injustice to spread. Let me be clear, the choices and decisions of other servers are not directly to blame towards the tier list. These stories, however, directly reflect the fact that popular PvP servers who adopt the blacklist system into their punishment system also adopt bias, resentment towards blacklisted individuals, and sometimes a complete lack of logic and justice that is much harsher than MCTiers. Let me also be clear that I am a blacklisted person, and I have done actions that have caused direct and indirect harm. I've done some personal and online inexcusable actions, including an incident where I made a personal dox bin, simultaneously doxing the info in it by inviting a person that I wanted to add more info to. Although it is definitely a long story, I do not excuse my past actions, as they were completely wrong. However, all of these things happened in early to mid 2023, where I was 16 to 17 years old. Since then, I've grown and learned to be a trustworthy, functioning member of the community, and I chose to stick to my main account to this day because I believed I would be forgiven and served justice within the Minecraft community, as long as time had passed and I could prove that I was a rehabilitated and safe Minecraft player. However, through appeals of the tier list, as well as different servers and communities closely tied to the tier list, I discovered that I would rarely receive justice as I once thought I could. A few months after my offences took place, I sought to appeal my blacklist from MCTiers. However, I couldn't find a way to do it because I was banned from the tier list Discord servers, and the community blacklist hub did not exist yet. I do remember there was a method to appeal your blacklist somehow though. I ended up contacting a friend who was friends with admins of the tier list who got them talking about if I should be unbanned to the admins. The admins discussed, however, they didn't involve me whatsoever, not inviting me to a ticket or to the conversation in any way, leaving themselves to talk about what they know without me getting to defend myself regarding questions and possible falsehoods of my case. In the end, they denied my blacklist appeal. Some defended me while others condemned me, with RYRV being the primary person against me. The main issue with this is that they didn't even include me in the appealing process, not giving me a chance to defend my case. Even when I asked my friend to tell them to directly talk to me about the situation, it didn't end up happening. I chose not to appeal again for over a year, until the time that I felt that I have a good chance of being unblacklisted. But by then, I realized that there was no way for me to appeal, because the appeals were closed. Even after the Community Blacklist Hub was created, appeals have not been opened yet at all, and I have not had the opportunity to appeal, even if I wanted to. I can confirm myself that I pose no threat or malice to the community, with proof including 2 years of a clean record, positive contributions to the community, for example my tutorials and guides aimed to help the community, as well as running 2 Minecraft servers, an SMP and a personal server that I've streamed and made videos on, with no misuse of the IPs that people gain access to when they run a server. However, none of this can be used because of the fact that I can't even appeal in the first place. However, these same arguments were used for appealing to other servers, and I'll tell you how that went, because my experience appealing in other servers have been no better. When appealing my ban to PvP Legacy, they outright told me that I would not receive a second chance, and that I never would. When I was banned from Storytime, which was the most popular Australian PvP server in 2023, they kept me banned for multiple months, which was appropriate considering my infraction was recent at the time. However, when considering my re-appeal months into the future, they said they would only unban me if I paid Storytime 100 Australian dollars, which is 65 US dollars. I did end up paying this money because I wanted to be accepted into the community again, and this was a step into the right direction. Although this method of appealing a punishment does work as a way to prove that you really are about change by sacrificing something, it is mainly about Storytime making money and not being focused on the safety of the community, which is pretty unjustified when it comes to the point of keeping someone blacklisted and fair trials. However, you could see this similarly to how you pay a court bail money to get out of jail, but the fact that I had to pay money to get into a server that I could originally go into for free is kinda dumb. I also got banned from MC PvP Club, and when appealing, they were really slow with replies, taking days to respond to my ticket, but still decided to reject my appeal silently, and they silently banned me from their Discord server, meaning that no second chance to appeal in the future was possible, and still is not possible to this day. When Storytime shut down and Oceanias became the top Minecraft server in Australia from 2024 till today, I was originally unbanned for a small amount of time before being blacklisted. When I appealed, the ban reason had doxing, but didn't have in the ban message that I made a dox bin. Most interestingly though, harassment was included in the ban reason too. Keep in mind this was a private dox bin that I only shared with one other individual, meaning the information was kept mostly private, never being leaked, and I had no recollection of ever harassing anybody. When I asked about why harassment was a part of the ban reason, they said that the person's identity needed to be protected and that they not only couldn't share who this person was, but also couldn't actually share what happened for this person to feel harassed. Although it turns out when I made the dox bin, I had followed an ex-Minecraft friend's personal account on Instagram because this account originated from the information that I had collected at the time. It was considered harassment to follow the account because they didn't want that, but I wasn't aware that it could be considered harassment to do that, just to follow somebody. However, since I didn't know any of this and Oceanias refused to give me any information about what the harassment charge was, I had no way to defend myself regarding that. This was pretty unprofessional on Oceanias' part. Revealing the victim's identity does not harm the person in any way, and Oceania's denying me this and giving me no way of defending myself already showed that from the start they had a bias against me. Although the victim requested to keep their identity hidden, you need to reveal it in order to actually get anywhere, otherwise you never really were letting the offender have a fair trial at all. Despite all this, I tried my best to defend myself regarding the doc/docspin thing, but was rejected. Recently though, when I had the chance to talk to Stasio, one of the owners of Oceania's, I asked if I could be unbanned. He seemed ready, but raised concerns about how the community would react negatively to my unban. This no doubt shows that the community and what they think about a person has an effect regarding what staff decide, which is not something that should be considered when giving someone a fair trial. It shows how public backlash can affect staff's decisions, proving that public stigma has real effects on justice in the Minecraft punishment system. This July of 2025 though, I decided enough time had passed and I was confident that I had a good chance to appeal for my blacklist in Oceania's. I wrote a polished appeal, arguing that years had passed since my initial offence, I had not reoffended since, and I was clearly a safe individual to let back into the Australian community. However, after a day, my ticket was simply closed and my Discord account was banned from the server. Although there is evidence beyond reasonable doubt that I am a rehabilitated and safe player, Oceania's did not give me a second chance. They decided that although I was a safe player, I should stay banned because of my past, despite years of rehabilitation. The time Oceania's existed is literally less than the amount of time since my initial offense, but still they decided to keep me banned because of how they felt. The community is not all bad though, as Cat PvP gave me empathy when I appealed my ban. They don't even have a blacklist system, just permanent bans. They asked me to wait a month before appealing again, where they decided to give me a second chance. I haven't caused any problem on that server since. I was also unbanned from Nightly, one of the biggest Australian PvP servers from 2021 to 2024 before shutting down. This wasn't easy though, considering I had to wait about a year, as well as submitting failed appeals before I had the opportunity to be unbanned, which was most likely only possible because the entire server was bought by somebody new, and this new owner gave me a chance and did not hold a bias against me. All of these experiences show that bias and injustice are common experiences for a blacklisted person. All of what I've explained though are my personal experiences. Now, let's get to talking about other people's experiences. Although doxing doesn't run in the family, Kaltana, my little brother who's 14, got into similar trouble in the Minecraft community. However, he's a much more impulsive, aggressive Minecraft player, embodying the example of an angsty teenager who vents his anger through slurs pretty accurately. One day when he was getting killed a lot in a Mace box server, he threw out dox threats to try and make the guy stop, because obviously he was getting pretty angry that he was losing fights, and doesn't have the developed skills to want to just leave and take a break. He, however, obviously scared the player who was harassing him, so then he was reported and promptly blacklisted. Furthermore, before this, my little brother shared the face of his friend to his friend in a threatening manner, which caused him to be reported by Oceania's by the player, and subsequently blacklisted for doxing, which is pretty confusing considering how it is his own face. However, there have been cases where a person who didn't want their face in the hands of another person was shown their face by that person in threatening manners, which ended up causing blacklists because they have their face and can do something bad with it. This is not my main concern though. However, in this case with Oceania's, my brother's friend could forgive him for that and my brother could be unbanned. However, my brother's friend then re-blacklisted him by providing the same evidence to Oceania's and pressing charges against him again. This cycle of the victim having the choice to blacklist and unblacklist someone from a server that is important to somebody not only skips the fundamental principles of punishment, but can potentially be used as leverage and as a gateway for blackmail and coercion. This entire situation happened to my little brother, aka Kaltana, before he was officially blacklisted for sending those dox threats. Although blackmailing and coercion didn't actually happen to my little brother, it's the fact that you can choose if a person is blacklisted or not that becomes dangerous and fundamentally flawed. If the person has actually committed the offense, then it shows that they should be punished for that. Just because the victim can choose not to mind, doesn't mean that the perpetrator wouldn't do this again to another person. If a person has committed an offense, then it should not be up to the victim whether they deserve punishment. The server either needs to punish them or not punish them at all for the offense they committed. It's completely flawed, and Oceania's, logically, should be more aware of these things when running such a large server. This issue I just talked about regarding the victim being able to unblacklist someone by forgiving them happened in Oceania's and has not happened in MCTiers before, at least to my knowledge. I may have ranted a little too much about how bad Oceania's is regarding their punishments as appeals, instead of focusing on MCTiers. But for a server that is the main hub of the Australian region, with thousands of Discord members and hundreds of Minecraft players on the server daily, that has adopted this blacklisting punishment system, it's disappointing that such a large server can consistently be unprofessional and biased. Although the tier list is not directly to blame for all the issues that I and others have experienced on other servers, there is still a defined pattern between these servers that show that blacklisted people receive little empathy or care for proper justice when attempting to appeal their blacklist, which is tied to the stigma, dehumanization, irredeemability, and generalization of doxers, DDoSers, and other blacklisted people, which ties back to the tier list blacklist system, and how its rigid system has not adapted from back when keeping doxers and malicious people from other communities out was the main priority, to now, where the player base is massive, smaller incidents are much more likely to happen due to the largely teenage developing player base, and the number of serial doxers and other consistently nefarious people in the Minecraft community being far less common than it once was. Part 4. How the system can be fixed. Now, I want to talk about how the blacklist system can be fixed. I've talked extensively about how permanent bans don't allow reform and rehabilitation, and how second chances are rare in the Minecraft community. These are the main things that need to be fixed in order to build the foundation of a working punishment system that allows second chances. This should be our priority, as well as granting more leniency, being logical, and allowing context to dictate the outcome. Here's my proposal on how the new ban system should work. Doxing someone's first name should, for their first offense, give a 1 week to a 1 month ban, the second offense giving a 1 to 3 month ban, the third offense giving a 3 to 6 month ban, and the fourth offense giving you a blacklist that's appealable after 1 year. Threats of doxing, DDoSing, and swatting somebody for their first offense should give a 2 week to a 2 month ban, the second offense giving a 2 to 6 month ban, the third giving an 8 to 12 month ban, and the fourth gives you a blacklist that's appealable after 1 year. Although this punishment is harsher than doxing somebody's name, it is because someone's first name gives minimal impact to somebody's life other than making the victim uncomfortable. And this is the same thing that happens when you are getting threatened with being doxed, DDoSed, or swatted. So a similar ban is necessary, but context is necessary to decide a justified ban. Also, calling someone by their first name or spreading their first name is much more common in tight-knit communities compared to threatening someone in general. Nuking someone's Minecraft or Discord server for their first offense constitutes a 1 to 6 month ban, the second offense giving a 6 to 12 month ban, and the third making you blacklisted with the ability to appeal after 1 year. Nuking is rarely talked about and it's a far less common occurrence in Minecraft, but it is something that happens sometimes and it's something that deserves a lengthy ban. Nuking is where you destroy or attempt to destroy a server, usually with someone getting unwanted administrative powers on a server that they aren't supposed to, and using it to destroy the server, either with mass bannings, destroying server files, or in other ways. It is extremely unacceptable and damaging behavior, because it destroys hours of people's hard work and months of time spent developing a Discord server's player base, as well as damaging the server's reputation. Doxing someone's face, family, or full name, or creating or being involved in a dox bin for a person's first offense should constitute a 2 to 6 month ban, the second offense giving a 6 to 12 month ban, and the third giving you a blacklist with the ability to appeal after 1 year. This is the next step up of doxing because it causes real harm, as well as more sensitive information being exposed and more serious things happening, which nobody likes. Doxing somebody's home address or other extremely personal information like bank details, passwords, etc. should constitute a 6 to 12 month ban for the first offense, then if done again gives them a 1 to 2 year ban, and if done again will get you blacklisted with no ability to appeal the blacklist. This is deeply personal information that can immediately cause bad trouble, so doing it a first time is bad, but should be forgivable, but if done a second or third time is no accident and shows a pattern of consistent malicious behavior. DDoSing someone's internet or a server, if proven, should constitute a 3 to 6 month ban for their first term, a 1.5 year ban for their second term, and if you do it again, you get blacklisted with no ability to appeal. This is because obviously, someone who knows how to download and use a DDoSing tool is dangerous, because it can only be used for harm. Hitting off a server or a person's internet is no accident and requires strict bans in order to deter people from ever trying to do it. There could also be a punishment type where if a DDoSing tool is found in a Minecraft player's PC, they can be punished for owning the tool, as there's no reason to have it other than using it for malicious intent. Swatting somebody, if proven, should place an immediate blacklist that is appealable after 3 years onto the individual. Swatting is far from a joke and causes direct harm and fear, even causing deaths in some cases. Someone who has the confidence and knowledge to swat somebody or buy a service for swatting obviously proves the person is or has connections to malicious people, and swatting somebody is one of the worst things you can do online. For this, a blacklist for a long time is the only way we as the community can deter this from happening again. However, 3 years is a good enough time for someone to drop out of the phase of swatting people and hopefully matures out of it. Those are all the main blacklistable bans covered. There are obviously more that I can't talk about right now, but they can be decided when those offenses happen, and this rubric can be used as an example on how other punishments should be shaped. This format of punishment gives people multiple chances depending on what they did, which should deter people from doing it again due to the long ban durations. The reason I'm saying that bans can vary from fewer to more months or years is so context can be used to dictate the ban. That way something small doesn't receive a bigger ban necessary, and bigger issues can receive the maximum ban term. This punishment system is basic though, as there are many variants of punishment that needs to be decided, such as whether multiple people were affected, if a person has done multiple different offenses at once, and other considerations. The main thing that should stay in place is the first, second, and third offense terms in order to apply increasingly longer ban sentences, as well as a second chance or ability to appeal for every first offense, even ones that are extremely harmful, such as swatting or even sexual offenses, but that depends heavily on the context. These large-scale offenses should definitely have multiple years applied to their ban term though, if being considered. These bans also infer that if a person is punished more times than the amount of ban terms I talked about for any offense, then they should automatically be blacklisted with no way to appeal again. This blacklist system is also designed to ban everyone for their designated ban period on every Minecraft server that supports the blacklist system, just like how the current blacklist system works today. Except, I have proposed ways that this design can be supported to work much better. First off, due to the way that MCTiers are split into 2 tier lists, this can make blacklisting people problematic, because someone who's blacklisted on Marlowe's list can just migrate to Learn's list and keep a low profile, because their blacklists and blacklist appeal system are in separate servers, meaning the individual can potentially cause more trouble on the other tier list. Therefore, the revamped blacklist system should be unified between both tier lists to ensure users' punishments can be synced to both tier lists, and synchronization is easy with what I'm about to talk about next. One big issue we've talked about is how it was very difficult to get unbanned network-wide across multiple servers once a blacklist has been applied to you. This can be fixed using technology, aka a Discord bot and a plugin that you can invite to your Discord and Minecraft server that synchronizes blacklist bans to your servers and to the 2 main tier lists that automatically bans and unbans people based on when they are blacklisted and the date that they get unblacklisted. This allows simple and easy automatic banning processes for blacklisted people so that they can be kept out of servers during their ban period and be unbanned when their time is up. Then individuals can join back into the Discord servers they were banned from and can join back into Minecraft servers again without needing to interact or appeal with staff on any servers. The tier list have Discord bots that synchronize tests to the official website and have skilled coders for both Minecraft and Discord. This means coding and creating a bot and plugin like this is possible that would make punishment management much easier for all parties involved and would be much better for the long term. This wouldn't be too easy to make though, considering you don't want the bot to automatically unban users that are already banned on servers for other reasons outside of the tier list. This can obviously be worked around though. Another slightly smaller issue is how you can't see if someone is blacklisted publicly or not. This used to exist in the past, but not anymore. My idea is that below your MCTiers name on the official website is an area below a player's tiers showing if they're blacklisted or not, as well as their ban day, when their ban ends, and what they did to get blacklisted. This keeps people well up to date with recent offenders and for servers who may not decide to use the Discord bot and plugin to automatically ban people. This also exposes everybody who is blacklisted and why, meaning that everyone can know if a person has done something small or done something big, as well as if they've done it multiple times, so you can keep an eye out for potential repeat offenders. However, a person's history shouldn't be shown once their blacklist time is over. This helps people feel like their past won't leave a stain on their reputation. One other issue I've talked about is how if you are denied an appeal, you're sometimes banned from the Discord server you're appealing from. Although not much can be done about this regarding other community-run servers, For the tier list, if an appeal is denied, there should be a 3 to 6 month cooldown period before you can make another appeal. That way, people who are denied have more time to reflect and improve themselves and their appeals, as well as to avoid spamming appeals. After all this, everyone who's currently blacklisted should be given a chance at appealing, and I mean everybody. Every person should get in contact with tier list staff regarding their blacklists and how they can be changed to fit the new system through the Community Blacklist Hub. This includes analysing the user's punishment history, if they are reformed, or at least haven't done malicious behaviour since, and how long ago it was that this happened. The goal is to get people unblacklisted entirely. If a person turns out malicious, they can simply be rebanned according to the new rhetoric. The main priority with this is to review everyone's blacklist and unblacklist everyone if they are deemed not a threat to committing the same offense that they committed again. If they are, then they should be kept banned, but given a ban term depending on how long ago they committed their offense. This could be months or even years, but everyone should be given a second chance, and only a select few people who really do show no remorse should not be given second chances. If some people don't reach out to try and unblacklist their appeal, then their history from the private database the tier list has can be checked, and a ban time or unban can be decided based on how long ago they committed their offenses. With all of these systems in place, most problems regarding the blacklist system are eliminated or will be nullified on their own over time to create a much better punishment system that not only punishes people effectively with justified ban terms, but also promotes reform, rehabilitation, and change through second chances while washing away stigma. If I were the owner of MCTiers, I would immediately change the blacklist system into this new system and have it as one of my main priorities to get this system fully functional as soon as possible. Because not only is it a necessary thing needing to be fixed, but it also causes less problem and drama long term and less workload for the tier list staff regarding banning people. It is a lot to ask, but it would create a much healthier punishment system over time, and it's a win-win situation for everybody. In conclusion, the tier list has never set out to harm anyone who was blacklisted. It was originally designed to keep the community safe, especially from players transitioning from other communities into the 1.9 community, and it was a necessary step to build the foundation of the community we have now. But over the years, the system has failed to adapt. From then until now, the blacklist has caused consistent stigmatization and has dehumanized blacklisted players that has spread to other servers outside the tier list, enforcing a rhetoric based on exile and lifelong punishments, all without a clear or guaranteed path of redemption that is only further corrupted when other communities adopt this same system. What once attempted to serve as an important tool to build our community has become a flawed failure of a correctional system, focused on condemnation and exile, which has proven through what I've talked about to be harmful long term. No community of this size should still rely on a system that treats every infraction the same and neglects the opportunity for second chances. We need a revamped blacklist system more than ever, and you guys can help make this a reality. If you want to help, get this video shared to the admins of MCTiers, and if you have verified stories from yourself and others, then share them publicly so we can raise awareness of the scale of these issues. With your help, we can protest these issues to staff in order to get these problems fixed once and for all. Thanks for watching.